Some stories begin with a quiet bruise. Mine began the day my son looked me in the eye and spoke as if I no longer understood what belonged to me. His calm certainty stayed with me longer than the illness that nearly ended me. If you've ever had a moment like that, share it in the comments. The handle felt colder than I remembered. My grip wavered, but the door swung open, letting the scent of old wood and a lighter floral note drift forward. I stepped in, still weak from weeks in the nursing facility. The living room looked the same, yet something in the air felt altered. A soft clatter came from the kitchen. A woman stood at the cabinet rearranging plates with the confidence of someone who'd been told she had a place here. She spun around quickly when she heard me. "Mr. Keene." Her politeness was practiced. A flicker of discomfort crossed her face before she smoothed it away. "My name is Maribel. Your son hired me to help." The words hit harder than she expected. She could tell. Her fingers tightened around the bowl she held. No call from Derek. No message. But he'd sent someone to my house, a woman carrying an authority she hadn't asked for. "Did he tell you I was coming home today?" I thought he would explain everything himself. She wasn't lying. She was following instructions she didn't fully understand. I moved past her slowly. This was the house I'd kept for decades, the place that had always been mine. Now a stranger stood in the center of it, unsure of her footing, because none of this had been explained to me. My phone buzzed. A message from Derek B. home later. "Everything's handled. Handled." A word that always meant decisions made without me. Maribel offered a glass of water. I shook my head. "I'm fine." She nodded, avoiding my eyes. She already knew something about the situation I didn't. Hours passed before Derek finally rushed through the door keys jangling. "Oh, good, you made it back," he said, barely looking at me. "Everything's set. You don't have to worry. Set how? Just let her help." "I arranged everything." He spoke as if he were briefing a co-worker, not his father. "You could have told me." "Dad, you signed the power of attorney paperwork at the hospital. Remember." The days in the hospital blurred with medication and fever. A signature was possible. The certainty in his voice felt rehearsed. "I don't recall agreeing to someone moving into my house." Derek exhaled sharply. "We'll talk later." "I'm late." He turned to Maribel. "Make sure he rests." Then he was gone. Maribel stayed near the counter, hesitant. Her gaze shifted toward the hallway, back to me, then down again. "I didn't know you weren't informed," she said. I headed to my room. The door clicked shut behind me, and stillness settled over the space. The bed, the dresser, the framed photo of my wife, everything looked untouched, yet the room held the faint disarray of someone else's presence. Maribel knocked once and stepped in with a tray of medications. She laid everything out, neatly scanning the labels with a caution that didn't match her steady voice. When she pushed the pill organizer toward me, a new schedule was taped to the side. "This is your updated timing," she said. "Updated by who? Derek changed it yesterday. He said the old one wasn't working. The printout didn't match anything my doctor had set. Different dosages, different hours. Derek barely listened when I talked about my health. He certainly hadn't consulted anyone. Maribel waited for me to take the pills, but her posture carried more unease than obedience. "I'll manage it," I told her. She stepped back with quiet relief. A knock sounded at the front door. Mrs. Ellery stood on the porch, holding a basket of muffins. Her expression faltered when she saw me standing there. "Oh, Walter, I thought you moved into long-term care. Who told you that your son mentioned it last week? He said you wouldn't be returning home. She meant no harm. She simply repeated what she'd been told." "I'm still here," I said. "That's good to hear." We were worried. She left quickly, her polite smile failing to mask her confusion. After she went, I sat down and tried to gather myself. Neighbors had always trusted Derek. Whatever story he'd shared made me look like a man slipping away someone who needed decisions made for him. The house felt unfamiliar. Chairs angled differently. Mail arranged into piles I hadn't touched. Even the thermostat setting had changed. Tiny shifts added up to a larger one. Someone else had been living with authority I hadn't granted. Derek answered only one of my messages that afternoon. Working. We'll call later. He didn't. Calls went to voicemail. Conversations when I reached him ended in seconds. Dad, I'm busy. Just rest. The dismissiveness wasn't new, but the consistency of it revealed something sharper. He wasn't checking on me. He was managing me. During her evening round, Maribel lingered. Her movements slowed. Her eyes stayed on me longer than usual. You can ask what you're thinking, I said. She kept her head lowered. Your son wants everything structured, that's all. Structured for him, I asked. She didn't answer. A recognition passed between us. She hadn't agreed to secrets, but she was surrounded by them. Later that night, the phone rang. A woman from County Social Services introduced herself. We received a report that your condition may affect your ability to live independently. I need to ask you a few questions. A report. Formal. Intentional. Who filed it? I asked. That information isn't disclosed, she said, though her tone betrayed sympathy. She asked about memory daily tasks medications. I answered plainly. She paused several times, registering how coherent I was. I'll document your responses. Someone will follow up. When the call ended, a heavy stillness settled in. Someone wanted an official record stating I couldn't care for myself. Walking through the house didn't calm me. Items had shifted again. Papers were stacked in places I hadn't put them. A binder of medical documents was missing entirely. Maribel appeared behind me, watching the tension in my shoulders. Did you move these? I asked. No, I haven't touched your things. Then who? She hesitated. Maybe Derek thought he should sort them. Her voice made it clear she didn't believe that. A dull ache spread through my chest, the realization that the house was being reshaped around me, not for me. In the study, I opened the old wooden cabinet my wife once used for her important papers. Dust lined the top. The handle resisted. Inside, documents lay out-of-place pages bent, some missing an envelope torn at the corner. A clean streak cut through the dust. Someone had gone through the drawer recently and hadn't bothered to hide it. Only one folder with her handwriting remained at the back. Touching the familiar ink steadied me for a moment, but the unease lingered, the particular ache of knowing your belongings were handled without permission. The next afternoon, I walked to the grocery store. Don Halper spotted me near the produce section. Didn't expect to see you around, he said. Derek told folks you've been slipping, that you're not steady enough to make decisions. My mouth went dry. He said that he sounded worried, said you were confused about basic things. Confused. Slipping. Words that stick to a man my age, whether they're true or not. I didn't argue. Don meant well. His concern only added weight to the problem. On the way home, a brief doubt tugged at me. During the worst days in the nursing facility, my memory had blurred. Maybe Derek thought he was helping. Maybe he believed the story he was telling. That doubt vanished that evening when I tried to open my bank app. Logged out. Password rejected. Reset blocked. A message appeared. Your device is not authorized. Someone had changed the access. My heart thudded, not from fear, but from the realization that my finances had been redirected without my knowledge. Maribel entered with a clipboard and paused when she saw the repeated login failures. "Everything all right?" she asked. "I'm being locked out of my own account." She glanced at my trembling hands, then leaned closer. "You should keep your old receipts," she whispered. Every one of them. It was the closest she had come to warning me. I gathered every document I could find: gas bills, grocery slips, medical summaries, anything with my name on it. They formed 2 growing stacks on the kitchen table. I even began a small notebook to track medications and appointments. Maribel noticed and gave a small nod before continuing her tasks. Later, my phone buzzed with a missed call from an unfamiliar number. No message. The timestamp didn't fit anything I'd done. A thin sense of being watched crept over me. Around 9, Derek came home, footsteps brisk. When he saw me sorting through the study folder, his jaw tightened. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Going through my files." He stepped into the doorway, blocking part of it. "Dad, you need rest. Let me handle the paperwork. You always stress yourself with this stuff. I'm not stressed. You look exhausted. Let me take care of it. I've got everything under control." Every word nudged me into the role he wanted: incapable, confused, dependent. "I'll review my documents when I decide to," I said. He pressed his hand against the doorframe and sighed sharply. "Fine. But stop digging into things you barely remember signing. You're making this harder than it has to be." He walked off, door slamming at the end of the hall. I stayed in the study, sorting dates and signatures. Some hospital forms felt familiar, others didn't. The illness had left fog behind, but not enough to justify this level of interference. Back in the kitchen, I set my phone on the table. The screen lit with a new notification. Appointment reminder. Downtown Madison Real Estate Office, scheduled under Derek Keene Notes. Discuss property options for 214 Westmoreland, my house. My hand tightened around the phone. The appointment wasn't speculation. It was movement toward a plan I wasn't meant to see. I set the phone on the table and waited until the room steadied. The reminder stayed on the screen until it faded. When Derek came through the door that morning, I didn't circle around the issue. "What's this appointment about?" I asked, holding up the phone. He gave it a cursory look. "Just prep work. Nothing you need to worry about." "Prep for what options?" he said. Irritation edging his voice. "I'm getting things lined up." He dropped a stack of documents on the table and pulled out one page. "Here, sign this so the process doesn't drag out." Legal text filled the sheet. Midway down, a clause assigned ownership and decision authority to Derek Keene. Not shared, not temporary. Exclusive. I didn't pick up the pen. "This changes the deed," I said. "It streamlines everything." "Dad, stop complicating this. You're slowing down the future for both of us." Entitlement, not concern, hardened his tone, a tone that assumed my agreement. I slid the papers back. His jaw tightened. "You're being stubborn. I'm trying to help you. You're trying to take my place in my own house." His face twitched. He shoved the papers into his bag and stalked down the hall. By afternoon, the house felt thick with resentment. Derek had left again. I headed to the bathroom to wash up. As I stepped through the doorway, my hand reached instinctively for the support bar. It was gone. My balance slipped. My foot skidded on the tile, my shoulder crashing into the doorframe with a jolt that could have ended differently if Maribel hadn't arrived in time. "Hold on," she said, gripping my arm. Her voice shook. "You almost went down." She reached for her phone. "I'm calling 911. There was a bar here I managed. It wasn't here earlier," she said, and her expression left little doubt someone had removed it. At the hospital, after tests and questions, the doctor flipped the chart. "Your record shows your son has full legal authority. Is that correct? Full authority." The bruise beneath my ribs pulsed. "He shouldn't," I said. The doctor stayed neutral, but he'd heard enough to know the situation was larger than a single fall. Back home, Derek arrived minutes later. One glance at the paramedic report, and his composure cracked. "What happened?" he barked. "He almost fell," Maribel said. The support bar was gone. "It was loose," Derek answered quickly. "I removed it to tighten the screws." "You didn't mention that," she said. He snapped. "You're supposed to keep an eye on him, not question me." The anger beneath his voice wasn't about worry, it was about losing control. He turned on me. "Dad, you can't keep doing this. Stop digging into things. You're pushing yourself too hard." "I went to the bathroom," I said. "You know what I mean?" He shot back and walked away before either of us could reply. Maribel's shoulders lowered. "I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd taken it down. You're not the one removing things, I told her." She nodded once, and returned to her tasks, moving with quiet dread. When the house finally stilled, I went to the study. The drawer remained open. Papers with my wife's handwriting lay, scattered signatures and dates shifting slightly in the dim light. Something urged me to search deeper. Behind a stack of tax forms, an untouched envelope was wedged between folders. The seal cracked open. Inside was an old deed. Life estate. My right to remain here until death. Non-transferable without my explicit consent. My fingertip traced the clause. The ink had held firm over the years, firmer than anything Derek had tried to build in its place. The deed stayed in my hand long after I finished reading the clause. Life estate. Something I had put in place years ago, and forgotten now, the one safeguard Derek hadn't expected me to uncover. Maribel knocked softly before entering. Her eyes took in my posture, the open drawer, the papers on the desk. "How's your shoulder?" she asked. "It'll heal," I said. "I need to ask you something." She stepped closer, hesitation tightening the space between us. "What did my son tell you before I came home?" A flicker of conflict crossed her face. Fear, honesty, and something like guilt pushing against each other. "Maribel." I said I need the truth. Her shoulders lowered. "He said you wouldn't be here long. That the care facility was better for you." The precision of it hit harder than volume ever could. He had spoken as though the decision was settled long before I returned. Another memory surfaced, the hospital room. Fever blurring my vision, Derek holding forms in front of me. I remembered the nurse saying the arrangement was temporary. I remembered agreeing only until I recovered. Maribel continued, voice cautious. "I overheard him talking to someone from a real estate office. He wanted a fast sale. He said he needed the money to clear a debt before moving you into long-term care." A cold clarity moved through me. This wasn't sudden. It had been building while I was still in a hospital bed. "Thank you," I said. She blinked, surprised. "You're not angry. Anger won't solve anything." Relief and worry mixed in her expression. She came a step closer. "I know a lawyer who handles cases like this, documents misuse of power of attorney. I can call her." Her sincerity landed, but I needed to see the full scope first. "Not yet. I need to go through what's already here." She nodded, though concern lingered. By late afternoon, Derek made his next move. His voice carried from the porch, low and urgent. "He's not steady. The infection messed with his clarity. We're trying to manage it, but he keeps forgetting things. A lie packaged as concern." Then another call to my cousin from the sound of it. "Dad's memory is going. He gets turned around. He needs supervision. He wasn't improvising. He was establishing a narrative." "Two old friends texted soon after heard you've been struggling mentally. Do you need help? Age turns rumors into assumptions. Assumptions turn into fact." Later, Maribel lingered in the doorway as I sorted medical notes and medication records. She watched the order returning to the table. "You're organizing everything," she murmured. "I have to." "You should," she said, "because whatever he's planning, he isn't slowing down." The warning came out before she realized she'd spoken it. My choice sat plainly before me: let Derek's version of me become truth, or take back what I had surrendered out of exhaustion and misplaced trust. People say a man's home is his castle. What they forget is that most castles fall from within. Maribel waited, hoping to see some sign I wasn't giving up. "I'm not done yet," I told her. She nodded and left me to the files. When evening settled, I spread the documents across the kitchen table: the life estate deed, the medical notes, the insurance summaries. One page slid loose the power of attorney form from the hospital. My signature shook at the bottom. Derek's handwriting above it stood steady. "Temporary authority," it read. "Until patient is considered fully stable." A safeguard meant to protect me twisted into leverage. My thumb rested on my signature. Not anger, not grief, something steadier. Beside it, the deed lay solid and clear. Together they formed a line no one had the right to cross. I reached for a pen, not to sign, but to mark what needed to be challenged and reclaimed. The kitchen table was nearly full: utility bills, insurance summaries, bank receipts, the life estate deed, and the power of attorney form that had started all of this. Sorting them brought a steadiness I hadn't felt in weeks, one document at a time. "No rush." Maribel paused at the doorway, watching the clusters form. "You should check your email alerts too," she said. "They can get redirected when account settings change. No accusation, just concern." I opened my tablet. Several banking notifications were missing, archived automatically, marked as read, even though I'd never seen them. "That's not normal," she added. "It isn't." Anger simmered, but I kept my focus. Clarity mattered more. I called the bank. The representative was friendly at first, then her tone shifted. "Your contact preferences were changed last month. Would you like them restored?" "Yes." "And remove any device added without my approval." She verified my identity, birthdate, loan history, security questions I answered without hesitation. Each response seemed to reassure her. "You're all set, Mr. Keene." Her confidence stood in sharp contrast to the story Derek had been spreading. A knock sounded soon after. A woman with a county badge stepped inside. "Mr. Keene, we received a report from your son about a safety concern." "Of course." She glanced at her tablet. "He mentioned instability, falls, confusion. I'm here for a wellness check. May I ask a few questions?" "Go ahead." I explained the fall and the removed support bar. Her eyebrows rose. "Did you remove it yourself?" "No." She typed slowly, reconsidering whatever Derek had said. Then came the memory, questions, dates, events, names. I answered everyone cleanly. When she finished, she closed the tablet. "I see no indication of cognitive risk. I'll file this visit as stable." Maribel exhaled softly. Before leaving, the woman offered a nod. "Reach out if you need support." Her phrasing told me she understood more than she could say. After she left, I called an elder law attorney, whose number I found in a booklet Maribel kept in her bag. She didn't push me toward it. She simply stayed nearby. I explained everything: the fall, the hospital signatures, the deed, the bank changes. "Temporary medical power of attorney doesn't override a life estate," she said. "Nor does it allow property transfer without explicit consent. You were never incapacitated enough for permanent authority. Then document everything. And don't sign anything else until we meet." Validation, not comfort, settled over me. Moments later, my phone buzzed. Derek had filled the screen with messages. "What are you doing?" Stop calling around. You're making everything harder. You're creating problems that don't exist. And then, Dad, stop. You're messing up the plan. I read them slowly. Didn't reply. Maribel stepped in with a folded towel. She glanced at the screen, then at me. You don't have to answer him. I won't. Then he left me to the quiet. Changing the lock took only a few minutes. A new cylinder, a clean click, a key in my front pocket. Not a dramatic gesture, just a boundary that should have existed long ago. Derek saw it the moment he came home. What the hell is this? He shook the doorknob hard. You changed the lock, I did. You don't trust your own son now. Not heard offense. As if I'd trespassed against him. You tried to get into that room, I said. I was organizing things for you. His voice sharpened. You're not thinking straight. That's why I step in. Someone has to. He didn't look at me. He looked through me, speaking to the image he'd built, not the man standing in front of him. You're not well, Dad. Haven't been for months. I said nothing. Silence rattled him more than arguing. You see, you can't manage basic decisions. He spun away, already dialing a number. Yeah, move the meeting up, he said. We're signing the listing this week. No, he won't be a problem. I'll handle it. A beat. Just have the paperwork ready. He ended the call and stared at me with a kind of cold certainty. You're making this harder than it needs to be. The house tightened around us that night. Derek paced from room to room, glancing at me as though waiting for a mistake. Near midnight, metal scraped softly in my bedroom. Maribel's voice cracked the hallway. Stop. Don't touch that. She burst into my room, breath quick. He was unscrewing the rail near your bed, she said. He claimed it wasn't mounted right, but he was removing it. Her anger wasn't louder, it was sharper. What did he say? I asked. That you needed proof you shouldn't be living alone. That accidents happen. A chill spread through me, not fear of falling, fear of where he'd let himself go. Before dawn, a new email arrived, notice from Community Services confirming an urgent capacity evaluation. Derek had reported me as mentally unfit and unsafe in the home environment. By breakfast, a caseworker called. We need to evaluate today. Your son expressed significant concern. She wasn't hostile, just unaware of the ground she was stepping onto. Maribel stayed close. Her presence couldn't fix anything, but it steadied the morning. The evaluator arrived early afternoon, calm voice, clear eyes, a folder under her arm. Let's talk somewhere neutral, she said. Derek hovered in the corner, waiting for a stumble. Describe your daily routine. Tell me about your medical history. Any recent confusion. Each answer came clean, factual, unforced. Then she asked, Do you have documentation of your legal and property arrangements? I laid everything out, the life estate deed, medical notes, receipts, and Derek's messages with the realtor, including the one about messing up his plan. Her eyes tightened as she read. Mr. Keene. This contradicts your son's report. She turned to Derek. You claimed he was disoriented, yet this documentation shows organized, deliberate planning. He's faking it, Derek snapped. He gets focused in moments, then he slips. You're not seeing the whole picture. She didn't flinch. Why did you contact a realtor? He froze. Why push to sell the home when he has legal protection to remain in it? No answer. Why remove safety equipment that resulted in a near-fall nothing? The evaluator closed her folder. I'll be filing this visit as stable and independent. The report appears inconsistent with his condition. Color drained from Derek's face. The script he'd rehearsed no longer fit the moment. She thanked me and left. Derek retreated to his room without another word. The house still felt unsettled, but no longer in his grip. Later, I stepped into the small patch of yard behind the house. Winter air pressed lightly against my chest, cooling the raw edges of the day. The evaluator hadn't even reached her car when my phone rang. A formal notice came through First Community Services instructing Derek to stop all involvement until their final report. His temporary authority was suspended. Moments later, another notification stated that every change he'd made to my records was frozen pending review. Derek stood in the hallway staring at his own phone as the reality settled. Disbelief hardened into something colder, but he didn't argue. He just walked past me, shoulders locked, moving through a house that no longer answered to him. The quiet that followed left room for truths I'd avoided. A slow ache pressed beneath my ribs, not from illness, but from recognizing how many years of stepping aside had led us here. All the times I let guilt speak for me. All the times I thought protecting him meant tolerating what I shouldn't. Patience is praised often. No one warns you that too much of it becomes permission. Maribel found me by the kitchen doorway. "They emailed me too," she said. I'm not supposed to take instruction from him anymore. Her words should have felt triumphant. Instead, they carried a kind of sorrow. A parent shouldn't need a county office to separate him from his child. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said, though. The truth twisted deeper. I just didn't think it would come to this. She didn't offer easy comfort. She simply stayed there, giving me room to accept what was already lost. Later that afternoon, the elder law attorney arrived. She moved through the paperwork with deliberate precision. "This power of attorney expired as soon as you regained capacity," she said, tapping the hospital form. "Your son acted outside its limits." She slid a new document forward. "This reinstates your full authority and revokes anything he assumed would continue." I read it carefully, then signed. A single pen stroke cut through weeks of doubt. She continued, "Your life estate is fully intact. Legally, you cannot be displaced or overridden on property matters." "Thank you," I said. "You protected yourself by documenting everything," she replied. As evening came, the effects rippled outward. A neighbor texted an apology for believing Derek's stories. Another wrote, "I should have checked with you first." Not pity correction. Maribel overheard a voicemail from one of Derek's co-workers. The tone was clipped. Word had spread about his false reports and the attempted sale. Madison carries news quickly. By dusk, the weight of those consequences began pressing onto Derek. Not a breakdown, just a collapse of certainty. He packed a few things and left before dinner. No explanation, no goodbye. I didn't follow. Some choices have to land exactly where they fall. The next morning, Maribel gathered her things. Her contract required her to move on once a case reached resolution. At the door, she said, "You did what you had to. Don't second-guess it." "Will you be all right?" I asked. "I always am," she said with a small, tired smile. "Take care of yourself." When she left, the house felt earned stillness, not emptiness. In the days that followed, I repaired the bathroom rail, trimmed the yard, registered for a basic maintenance class at the community center, started walking along Lake Monona in the mornings, letting my stride return at its own pace. Derek didn't come back. I heard he was staying with a coworker. People who'd once repeated his claims now kept their distance, not out of spite, but clarity. The house no longer felt contested. It felt mine again. One evening after preparing outgoing mail, I opened an old tin box from the cabinet, my wife's tools. The faint scent of metal and ink drifted out. No grand revelation struck me, just the quiet steadiness of something familiar. I picked up the small wrench she used to favor and set it gently on the table beside me, letting the weight of it settle in my hand.